Welcome to Wisdom Unveiled. Let's start with this line from Hafez. Every dewdrop on this path of fire is 100 seas of flame. Alas, this enigma has no explanation or description.
Wow. Yeah, that just throws you right in, doesn't it? A dewdrop is 100 seas of flame. The paradox is immediate.
It really is. What could that possibly mean? It sets such a tone of mystery and, well, intensity.
Absolutely. And it's a perfect doorway into the kind of deep, sometimes challenging wisdom we find in Hafez Shirazi.
And that's exactly our focus for this conversation. We're diving deep only into the insights about Hafez that came up in those fascinating Marifat discussions between Dr. Dinani and Dr. Larijani.
That's right. We're drawing from their commentary, like the talks in file 14818 as R1390.mp3, about his ghazals, trying to really unpack their take on him. This is, I believe, number 38 in our 40-part exploration.
Just a quick note for you listening, this is our translation of those original Persian dialogues. We try our absolute best, but capturing every single nuance across languages is tricky, so apologies if some things don't land quite as directly as they might have in the original.
It's worth it, though, because understanding their perspective on Hafez, on that tension between the fiery path and the unseen beauty he talks about, it's really rewarding.
It is. So let's start there with this fiery path, the Rai-esh. Dr. Dinani mentioned something interesting, that Hafez's ghazals aren't just, scattered verses.
No, that's a really important point he makes.
Right.
You can pull out almost any line from Hafez, and it stands alone, powerfully. But Dr. Dinani argues there's also a connecting thread, an internal logic running through the whole poem.
So it builds an idea. It's not just a collection of beautiful thoughts.
Exactly. The ghazal develops a core concept. And in the one they discuss, you see this movement. It starts with divine beauty being kind of visible in the world, and then moves towards the more hidden nature of the divine essence.
Okay, interesting transition. So this fiery path, what did Dr. Dinani say it actually is, this journey towards?
Towards truth, towards God, towards understanding the divine essence. Fundamentally, it's the spiritual quest. And yeah, it's consistently described as incredibly difficult.
Difficult seems like an understatement after that opening line. So what makes it fiery? Where does the fire come from, according to Dr. Dinani's reading of Hafez?
Well, the main source isn't really external stuff. It's internal.
Ah.
It's the constant battle with our own, seemingly endless desires and the ego, our ego tendencies.
The inner landscape? That makes sense.
He contrasts it with animals whose needs are mostly about survival. Human desires for wealth, power, status, they can just keep going.
Right.
No natural limit.
Right. Insatiable. Which must be a huge obstacle on a path that requires letting go.
Exactly. Which loops us back to that dewdrop metaphor. Every dewdrop is 100 seas of flame. Dr. Dinani insists this isn't just poetic exaggeration.
So what's the interpretation? A dewdrop, like a small good deed, a moment of insight.
Something like that. Even something small and seemingly pure on this path can feel overwhelmingly hard, like navigating a fiery ocean. He points to the water versus fire imagery itself, that internal friction, the purification needed.
So it's not just about external trials. Even our good intentions can get caught up in the fire.
Precisely. And Dr. Dinani really hammers this home. Even piety, if it leads to pride.
Ah, the ego creeping in.
Yeah, feeling superior spiritually, that becomes its own sea of fire. It links to that idea of hidden shirk.
Subtly associating partners with God, like taking credit yourself.
Exactly. Self-conceit. Thinking, I achieved this spiritual state. Dr. Dinani mentions that hadith, the black ant, on a black stone on a moonless night.
Wow. Almost impossible to see.
Right. It shows how subtle these ego traps are.
Yeah.
So just trying to be good isn't quite enough.
It needs constant vigilance, self-awareness.
That's the core of it. This inner work, recognizing those desires, those ego patterns, seeing them clearly.
And then creating distance, not suppressing, but understanding.
Yes. And that requires what Dr. Dinani calls miraba, the continuous spiritual contemplation, which connects straight to he who knows himself knows his Lord.
But not just intellectually knowing.
No, a deep experiential self-awareness. Knowing the true self, the one connected to divine guidance, not the nafsi amara, the ego-driven self.
And Dr. Dinani was quite firm that Hafez means this difficulty literally, right? It's not just poetry.
He argues strongly that for Hafez, this reflects the actual lived intensity of the journey, for someone truly on the path, deeply aware of their inner conflicts, not like maybe other poets exaggerating worldly love or something.
Okay. And Hafez uses other metaphors for dangers, too.
Oh, yeah. Robbers, wolves, predators.
Symbols for the ego's tricks. Internal traps.
Exactly. The ways we could deceive ourselves on the path to truth.
So with all these internal predators, what's the protection? How do you stay safe?
The key safeguard, according to Dr. Dinani, is zikr, constant remembrance, awareness of God, of truth, turning the heart back again and again. That helps you see through the illusions.
Okay, constant remembrance. That leads us to the other side of the coin, this unseen divine beauty. There's that couplet. Since without the beauty of the beloved, the heart has no inclination for the world. Whoever does not have this truly does not have that.
Right. This brings in Jamal, divine beauty itself, and Jelvet, its manifestations, its reflections.
And Dr. Dinani's idea here is?
He suggests our souls aren't drawn to the material world inherently. We're drawn because we sense in the world an echo, a reflection of that deeper Jamal.
So when we appreciate beauty in nature, art, kindness, it's actually tapping into something divine.
That's the idea. He uses that thought experiment.
Yeah.
Someone without intellect or perception, would they be attracted to the world? Our appreciation stems from that link to Jamal.
So the beautiful things we see are the jelva, the reflections, like sunlight on water.
Exactly. Lots of glimmers, one source. The Jelva are the outward expressions of the underlying Jamal, and there's a dynamic interplay between them.
We see the reflections easily, but the source may be too intense.
Perhaps. Like looking at the sun reflected versus the sun itself. The Jamal is veiled, but is the origin of all the Jelva we perceive.
Now that second line, whoever does not have this truly does not have that. Dr. Dinani said it's ambiguous, right?
Yeah.
What are the possibilities for this and that?
Yes, he highlighted that. One way, if you lack the interconnection, the heart's link to Jamal, then you won't truly appreciate that the worldly beauty, the Jelva.
You see the surface, but miss the depth.
Right. Miss the resonance, but the flip side is also possible.
Which is?
If you ignore the beauty around you, the Jelva, then you cut yourself off from that, the divine source, the Jamal. Ignoring the signs blocks the connection to the origin.
So inner and outer perception are totally linked. It comes back to know thyself.
It really does. Knowing the true self, the divinely guided aspect, not the ego. That inner clarity helps you see the divine reflected outwardly.
Okay, but then Hafez seems to pivot slightly. And with no one did I see a sign of that heart-ravishing one on either I have no news or he has no sign. This sounds almost contradictory after seeing beauty everywhere.
It does initially, but it introduces a crucial distinction between God's attributes, beauty, power, etc., which have signs, the Jelva, and God's essence, the Zat.
The essence itself, which is understood as completely transcendent, beyond our grasp, the hidden treasure.
Exactly. And mystics and philosophers generally agree you can't really grasp the Zat intellectually. Don't reflect on the essence of God.
Right, so Hafez isn't contradicting himself.
No, he's differentiating levels. We see signs of attributes, Jelfa, Jamal, but the essence, the heart-ravishing one, in its ultimate reality, that's different.
And he gives two reasons for not seeing a sign.
Yes. First, on either I have no news, maybe it's my limitation, my lack of capacity or purity, acknowledging his own potential.
Wait a second.
Or he has no sign. Maybe the Zat itself, by its very nature, cannot have a sign in the way we understand them. Its inherent transcendence.
So he leaves the mystery intact.
Completely. It reminds you of the hijabi nurani, the veils of light.
Where the attributes themselves, the light, can actually veil the deeper essence if you fixate on them.
Exactly. You need to see through the beauty to the source. But maybe that source is ultimately beyond direct sight. Even spiritual knowledge itself could become a veil.
But if the essence is so hidden, why does it matter?
Because, as Dr. Dinani explains, it sustains everything. Attributes need an essence, just like thoughts need a thinker.
Right.
All perceived qualities point back to the Zat. Without it, nothing else exists.
That's a deep concept.
Truly. Dr. Larijani mentioned even someone like Ibn Sina struggled to define essence. How do you define what underlies all definitions?
It's like describing the canvas, using only the paint on it.
Perfect analogy. Rumi said something like, the description of the description is impossible. Mullah Sadra linked it to our human yearning. Maybe we keep seeking because we haven't grasped the essence.
Wow. Okay. So after all this fire and mystery, Hafez talks about a destination of peace. How does that follow?
Well, right after acknowledging the difficulty, he advises, do not carelessly lose the destination of peace, O camel driver. Halt, for this road has no end. Dr. Dinani saw this as a very logical, necessary step.
Like, okay, this journey is tough, maybe endless, but don't forget you can find peace along the way.
Exactly. And how? Through zikr, remembrance. Dr. Dinani explicitly linked it to that Quranic verse. Verily, in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest.
Ah, okay.
So even when the path feels fiery, that constant awareness, turning the heart, it brings stillness. Don't neglect that, Hafez says.
And the camel driver, the Sarban, that's the seeker.
Yes, the spiritual traveler. And halt, warish, isn't giving up. It's like pause intentionally. Find that inner peace, regroup. Because this road, Kinyuan, it has no end, no shore.
A strategic pause on an infinite journey, finding stillness within the struggle.
Exactly. It makes the hardship bearable, maybe even allows joy. Dr. Dinani talked about that human paradox.
Yeah.
We want a final destination, but we're also drawn to the infinite.
Right, the journey isn't about getting somewhere finite.
Which ties into his distinction between fam, static understanding, like having the answer, and famadan, the process of understanding, the aha moment.
The dynamic act itself.
Yes, true spiritual understanding is this ongoing process, famadan, and Dr. Dinani suggests, drawing on Esmaili thought, that it has its own inherent joy.
Not like worldly pleasure that fills a lack.
Precisely. The joy of insight itself is its own reward. Each step of understanding brings satisfaction. The journey itself can be rewarding.
That makes sense. Each step a new level of light, perhaps. Then there's that image. The crooked-backed harp sings of joy. Listen, for the advice of the elders has no harm.
Such a powerful symbol, the crooked-backed harp, bent by time, by hardship.
Represents someone aged by the path's trials.
Yes, but crucially it sings of joy, suggesting wisdom, even happiness, comes through those trials.
And the elder, the peer.
The peer embodies that wisdom gained through experience. Hafez says, listen to them. Their advice is gold because it's lived.
Dr. Dinani really stressed that lived experience aspect. It's different from just knowing things.
Fundamentally different. Then Hafez warns about Karun's treasure, scattered by the wind, a clear call to loosen the grip of worldly wealth.
Right, the classic story of fleeting riches versus the enduring path.
And then the starker image. Go out of the house of the churning sky and seek no sustenance, for this black bull will ultimately kill its guest.
Phew! Intense. The world as a black bull, Sagaf. It provides, yes, but ultimately brings our physical end.
It's a radical call for detachment, isn't it? Don't put your ultimate trust in worldly provisions.
Hafez really hammers this theme of detachment again and again.
Constantly. From wealth, status, ego. It seems fundamental for progress in his view. Attachments just hold you back.
And finally, that verse about being God's servant. No one in the world has a servant like Hafez. For since you are king, no one in the world has such a one. It sounds almost boastful at first.
It can seem that way, but the interpretation is usually profound humility. His unique status as a servant, Banda, comes entirely from the unparalleled greatness of his master, the king.
Ah, I see. His distinction is borrowed glory, in a way.
Exactly. And Dr. Dinani mentioned the reciprocity too. Creation depends on God, but God's attributes become known through creation.
Bringing it full circle again, the world reflecting the divine, like that other verse. Your rose bush of beauty sprouted, heart inflaming. We applied our breath of endeavor to it. Interconnectedness.
Yeah.
So wrapping up this exploration of Hafez through Dr. Dinani and Dr. Larijani's discussions, we've really covered a lot. The fiery path, the mystery of the essence behind beauty, the need for awareness, remembrance, detachment.
It's such a rich tapestry. And seeing it through their dialogue really highlights the nuances. A path of fire, yes, but also holding the possibility of deep peace and understanding.
It definitely makes you reflect on your own journey, doesn't it? Thinking about the fires you face and maybe those signs of unseen beauty you might be noticing or maybe overlooking.
Absolutely. Plenty to chew on there. Perhaps you can take a moment to consider the challenges and the glimpses of beauty in your own life. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive into the wisdom of Hafez.
We hope you continue to explore his incredible poetry and these profound ideas.